Hello and welcome to another chess video with me. I'm FIDE Master Ingvar Johannesson from Iceland, and we're still in the Tata Steel Masters. There's one round left. In the last round we will have a game between Magnus Giri and Magnus Carlsen. But what will be the score before the last round? Before this round we had Magnus and Anish with 7.5 leading the tournament. Their, well, basically only rival was Nepomniachti. We already had a video on this channel with Nepomniachti's game from round 12, so we know what happened there. And Magnus Giri, he drew in the 12th round, so pretty clear. If Magnus loses, half a point behind, draw, was still equal, and if Magnus wins, he's half a point ahead. So we're going to jump into the game. So Magnus with white and Jan Krzysztof-Duda, the Polish, I think he's Polish #1 now. Wojtaszek has been for a while, but Jan Krzysztof-Duda is definitely the future of Polish chess. A very promising player who will join the elite pretty soon, if not already. But okay, on to the game. Magnus opens with pawn to d4. We have knight f6, c4 and e6. And from here we have, many transpositions that can happen. Black usually goes d5 to the queen's gambit declined. Depending on white's reply here. After knight f3, he can certainly do that. Bishop b4 is the pogo. Duda is not interested in that. He plays d5. And Magnus goes for the most common move, knight to c3. And from here, a lot of options. Duda took on c4. D takes e4. If you play c6, we have the semi-slav, a very respectable and common opening. If bishop e7, probably bishop g5, and we have queen's gambit declined, most likely heading for a Lasker with b6. But Duda took on c4. After e4 we have bishop to b4, and we're entering the so-called Vienna variation. Complicated line. Magnus played the #2 move here. The most common move is to play bishop g5 when we're entering the what I would call the Vienna woods. A very complicated variations. The most common moves here, we'll just quickly go over. Bishop takes c4, c takes, knight takes, black takes on c3, plays queen to a5, hitting c3 and the bishop. White gives a check here before taking on f6, and something like this. Complicated line where I think mostly, if black is playing it, he's mostly worked it out to a draw. But a very complicated line. But Magnus, he played bishop takes c4, which is a very aggressive move because black can take on e4, which Duda did, and Magnus castled. But here Duda didn't go for the most critical continuation, which is to take on c3. He retreated knight to f6, but the critical move is knight takes c3, b takes e3, and here black can either retreat with bishop to e7 or take the pawn on c3 when we have a very complicated game. White probably has full compensation. He's castled, all his pieces are out. He can play bishop a3 or bishop g5. Great compensation. White is down 2 pawns, but great compensation because of his lead in development. I think we have some nice games by Aronian in these lines. But for some reason Duda didn't want to enter these lines, and he played knight to f6. Now note that black is he's up a pawn, so taking on c3 is a bit greedy. So knight f6 is a bit more restrained. I mean, he's still up a pawn, so you're trying to hold on onto the pawn and make white, you know, prove the composition. But okay, white has this move, queen to a4 check, hitting the bishop. So you have to play knight c6, protecting the bishop. But now there's knight to e5, and yeah, this move came a bit quickly because it's a bit cryptic. But Duda played rook to b8, which looks strange, but a very clear idea. And the idea is simply that if white takes on c6, which Carlsen didn't do, all of a sudden your rook is protecting your loose bishop. That's a big idea, and black is doing fine. But here Carlsen played a novelty. He played rook to d1. Duda castled, and after it takes on c6, Carlsen recouped his pawn by taking on a7. So okay, the rook is attacked, it's defended, bishop to d7, and now the queen retreats. It sort of did its job, recouping the pawn. We have c5 hitting the queen, which goes back, c takes d, and rook takes d. So equal material, and looks like black is very close to you know, equalizing. But bishop c5 and rook to h4, h6. Okay, I mean, this is white might be thinking about bishop g5, and black can and maybe should be worried about the attack on h7. So he played h6, and after the game there was an interview with Carlsen, and he said, was this preparation? Yes, but you don't expect your opponent to fall for your tricks. So the only thing that Carlsen knew here was that he could make the move that he did, but he didn't know the details. And here Carlsen took on h6. A big piece sacrifice. Black takes, and queen d2. So like Carlsen said, he didn't know the details. He only knew that this was or should be good for white. And that's a very good detail to know before you sacrifice. But he didn't know the details because when you prepare lines like these, you maybe look at the computer evaluation. You're thinking, okay, it says winning, so you know this is winning, but you don't really check the lines, and you don't expect your opponent to play or fall for these lines. But that's what happened. And okay, white wants to take here on h6, and it looks like close to mate. But black played knight h7. Okay, we have like a ton of moves, like knight h7, knight to e8, maybe knight d5, even knight e4 is a move, but knight h7 is probably the best move. The thing about this move though is that queen to h6, as played, just looks game over. You don't have any way to protect the knight. If you move it, I would just give mate on h8. So how do you defend? But as in every good game, the defending side has a good tactic, you know, good defense, and Duda of course had a move here. You paused, you found it, yes, you were right. He played bishop takes f2. Big forcing move, because you cannot not take, because black will take on h4. So you have to take the bishop, but now queen f6 with check. So you're not getting mated. Carlsen took. And now? Yeah. No, not knight takes f6, but Zwischenzug. If you take with the knight, b3 or bishop e3, white is up a pawn. But black has a Zwischenzug, in between move, rook takes b2 check. Okay, king has to move, and now you take the queen. So now we have equal material. But white still has the initiative, and the world champion played rook to f1, hitting the knight, king g7, and rook f3. Excellent move. Rook g3 is threatened, and for a minute it looks like you could play your knight like knight e8, hoping for rook g3, and you made the move square free king on f6, and you're fine. However, I do have another rook, so this doesn't work. Rook g4, and you are checkmated. Checkmate. So you can't do this. So this explains black's move, rook to g8, but now rook f4. Knight is attacked, and if the knight moves, f7 is hanging. So it looks like a very good line for white, and black has gone wrong. And yeah, the best thing that black can do here is bishop c6, and that gives up yeah, 2 pieces for a rook. Pawns are equal, so white has a material advantage. 2 minor pieces against the rook, which is basically +1, and also you have 2 distant passed pawns. Very good weapons. This is move 27, but the game went on for a very long time. White is definitely much better, even close to winning, but the realization of the advantage is a bit difficult, and black has drawing chances. So let's go through the moves quite quickly. Rook to d8, rook f2. White is quite happy to exchange rooks, so black doesn't want to do it. Bishop to b5, rook a8, and now white is ready to push the pawn, a4. But now a tactical move, c6. Now if you take, I play rook to c4, and we have a double attack. This guy and this guy are hanging, so you can't do that, so the bishop retreated, but the knight is still covering the pawn, so everything is under control. Rook a5, rook f3, black goes on with his pawns, and we have an endgame, so white brings the king. Rook c5, bishop d1, covering the pawn, so the knight is free to move, and it moves. Knight to e2, rook a3, we want to push the pawn, maybe. Rook to b1, attacking the bishop, king e1, protecting the bishop, e4, g3. Yeah, this prevents black from ever sort of getting to connected passed pawns. King to e5, h4, reminding black that we do have another passed pawn here. Rook a5, as otherwise maybe white was ready to push. h5, c5. Okay, we'd like to push, but if we do, then the rook comes over, attacks, and wins the pawn. So no rush. King d2, c4, king c2, rook goes back, king to c3, rook to b1. Yeah, small repetition, and now king to c1. And we still have this position where white has, yeah, 2 minor pieces for the rook, and it's very promising position for white, but it's very difficult to improve the position. But let's go on. Knight to f4, rook c5, rook e3. So white is trying to find like a way to push forward, but it's not so easy. King to d4, the rook goes back, rook h6, rook e5, knight e2 check, the king has to go back, and now rook h1. And Carlsen mentioned afterwards that he was quite happy when he found this regrouping with rook h1, and he thought at this point that, yeah, he should be winning. King to c3, and notice that, yeah, these pawns are completely blockaded. There's no danger from these pawns. So white is just trying to find a way to push forward. And he found a way here. After rook g8, he played rook to b1. Seemingly a risky move because we're hanging this. Black took it. But we do have a tactic, and white took on e4. Rook e8 was played. The obvious point is if you take the piece, rook b5, king back, and I take your rook. I'm up a whole piece and I win. So as the bishop takes e4, we had rook to e8. But now some nice tactics. Very, very nice. Okay, the bishop is attacked, but counter-attack. Knight f4, attacking the rook. The rook moves. We have a big check here. Only one square. And now I take your pawn. Okay, black takes another pawn. And now we can take this pawn and rough a pawn, along with two bishops for a rook. So basically two pawns. But a very nice move by Carlsen. King to d4. This pawn is not going anywhere. We can take it later. King d4 gets the opposition. And now we're threatening rook b6 and taking the king back. And there's really no good way to prevent that. Black played rook g1, rook check, king e7. Note that if king here, knight d5, kicking the king further back. So king e7, knight d6, king r7, knight e5 check, and now we take the pawn. This is basically completely winning. We're already up like 2 pieces for rook, which is +1, and we have a pawn, which we can fairly easily shelter and push forward. So let's just see the remaining moves. Attacking the pawn, defending it, double attack, rook b5. Yeah, note that if we allow black to take here, if it's black to move, let's make a 0 move. I think it's Ctrl Alt and no, is this one Ctrl? If it's black to move, let's make a black move. Like king c3, black will take. And this material correlation is actually a draw. Although the bishop and rook has done quite well in practice, because it's difficult to defend, it's a theoretical draw. So after rook to a1, we have to defend the pawn. Rook b5, rook a7, rook f5, cutting off the king. King g7, bishop c2. And after this, black went for the rook trade, but probably immediately regretted. I mean, rook c6 is probably a better defense, and white still has some work to do, although it should be fairly easy to winning. But after rook f7, white's work was made considerably easier. After knight to a3, Jan Krzysztof-Duda resigned. This pawn is simply too much. Let's say you try to go back and stop the pawn. I will push it. Let's say you go back, a7. Yeah, this is pointless to move the rook there. I'll just go here and bishop e4. If you go rook a8, knight d5, next move bishop e4, and then push the pawn. So yeah, so basically black's best practical chance is to take the pawn and make white mate with a knight and bishop, which I'm pretty sure Magnus Carlsen would have no problems in doing. So after knight to a3, resignation by Duda, and this means that we head into the last round with Magnus Carlsen half a point ahead of Giri, who has the white pieces against Magnus in the last round. So 2018 we had a playoff between Giri and Carlsen, but this year, Anish, if you want to do anything, you have to beat Magnus with the white pieces. So this will be interesting. Magnus is I think he's getting close to 40 games now unbeaten, and Giri, I mean, this is your moment to shine. If you want to like prove that you're a contender to the crown, beat Magnus for the tournament. That's the stage. That's tomorrow. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.